In the great torrent of the river of time, the Hui people have managed to synthesize the Islamic culture with that of the traditional Han Chinese. Beside artistic expressions, these are also manifested in their daily customs, such as weddings. The old type of wedding ceremonies are now out of date except for the country folks in the remote areas. In the old customs, the parents of the parties concerned, the bride and the groom, used to dominate the whole affair. The new type tends to adhere more to the teaching of Islam and gain the consent of both parties involved. Islamic wedding customs are rational and timeless, for they follow rules laid down for more than 1,300 years ago. The emphasis on agreement between both parties, especially the consent of the women, shows the Islamic consideration on the rights of men and the protection of the rights of women. The ceremonies of engagement and marriage are quite similar to Chinese Muslims and non-Muslims, except that the Muslims celebrate the event with a religious ceremony, and they do not use old Chinese music or gongs or firecrackers, since they consider this to be superstitious. The religious ceremony is held a day before or just preceding the general ceremony. At present, marriage ceremonies are usually held in the mosque. Sometimes, Western music has been adopted for marriages since it is not associated with the worship of any beliefs. Today, we participate in a Hui Muslim wedding ceremony held at the Bai family in the midst of the Muslim streets not far away from Beiyuanmen, the popular entrance to the Itri streets. The new couple has been pronounced husband and wife by the Imam of the mosque the day before, and today the bride is getting ready to move over to the groom's house. The bride's house at the small alley is flooded with friends and guests, all eager to partake in the joy and bliss of the new bride to her new phase in her life. The attention of the well-wishers is so overwhelming that the bride cannot help to hold back tears of joy, which is mixed with sadness at times. While the beautiful bride is being ushered to rest at the back hall, let's talk to her mother about the wedding.
今天是我女儿的大喜日子。按照我们回族的习俗，就是昨天是阿訇来给他们念米卡哈，念完米卡哈以后，把嫁妆都送过去。然后今天是男方，就是把女儿接过去，待客，在家里边待客过年天。然后把女儿带过去，嫁过去。2个孩子通过谈恋爱，然后男方辞媒人过来，媒人就是1个阿訇和3个媒人过来到我们家来说媒，通过父母亲的同意，然后就成定亲，定亲就有定亲的聘礼，给我们送过来，点心和糖都送过来，然后就算订婚，然后到结婚的日子再定下来以后，他们就给我们来的聘书。写一个聘书，把结婚日子定下来，然后再把聘礼拿过来。聘礼就是，或者就是钱，或者就是点心、糖之类的东西，给我们送过来，就把日子定下来，然后就定到今天。今天就是大喜的日子，结婚的日子。啊，今天就是我们通过过年贴，先要只干珍珠，要举义，过年贴平安的年贴，过完以后就是男方来把女儿接过去。今天到他们家以后就是明天早上绑不搭下来，然后就是或者哥哥或者舅舅把女儿接回来，然后就是明天回门嘛，还是后天我们就是拿点蛋糕之类的东西，然后再把女儿送过去，就是丈夫过来把她接过去，然后再接过去回婆家去，基本上就完了。今天我的心情特别高兴。只感真主，就是希望他们2个都幸福。
The Imam has finally arrived at the Bai house and to conduct the ceremony and to recite the Quranic scripture dedicated to the wedding. The ritualized ceremony shows the significance of religious tradition and Hui wedding. In Chinese culture, a woman belongs to her family and serves her parents only as long as she lives under the same roof. Although marriage ceremonies and attitudes have evolved into many different forms in recent years, the bride, Miss Zainab, is still very much affected by the idea that she would be leaving her mother's house for a new one. As she prepares herself for the long walk to the groom's house, without warning, she burst into tears. They are brief, but at the same time explain the battle she must have been experiencing internally. Marriage is a time for happiness, but it also represents the final step from adolescence to adulthood. However, she quickly recovers as she leads the parade of guests down the street, accompanied by the bridesmaids. Under the sudden pops of poppers, Miss Zainab embarks on her new life journey, basking in the new glow of blissfulness. The parade of the bride has become a regular feature along the busy streets of the Muslim quarters here. The festive atmosphere is not unlike that of a carnival. As the bride walks into the groom's house to rest and wait for the wedding feast to begin, one could not help notice another fervent crowd outside where a different type of celebration is being held. It is the ridicule of the groom, a traditional ritual to make fun of the new husband by the bride's relatives and friends before he can meet the bride. Like in the olden days, the groom is being chained with several padlocks, with his face smeared in dark paints, where in this case, a few die-hard friends are also being dragged into the game. The amusing ordeal may last until evening, when he will bargain with the in-laws, relatives and friends with offerings of small gifts and sweets in order to open up each padlock. It really takes great PR skills with an iron will for the Hui to consummate a marriage. Away from the joyous chaos of the festive crowd, let's pay a visit to a young Hui couple with a newborn baby boy. Ismail Tia Wen Long works at the Sansi Islamic Association. He is the representative of the emerging generation of young Hui Muslim in XiAn, who has a new perspective on the traditional Islamic culture in XiAn. Ismail sees the present need of the community to align to the Islamic teachings, which may be long forgotten or misinterpreted through various tumultuous periods in the history of China. His dream for the future is not only reflected in his present work, but also in the future generation, his son, as elaborated by his wife here.
就是让他在接受国家的义务教育之前，根据我们陕西的那个传统，让他在4岁的时候接受伊斯兰的教育，然后呢，希望他以后能够茁壮的成长，然后健健康康，成为一个有知识的人。
Ramat adheres to her daily prayer routine if there is no hindrance. The arrival of a newborn baby and the requirement of daily chore should not distract her from performing duties as a Muslim. Today happens to be the very first day of the holy month, and as the sun sets over the ancient city wall, it also signifies the time for breaking fast. Like many young Muslims here in XiAn, Ismail prefers to break his fast at the neighborhood mosque to enjoy the intimacy and brotherhood amongst the young people there. Ismail usually visits the West Mosque, which is located near his home in the Muslim quarter. Established in 1926 as a Yihewani mosque, the XiAn West Mosque is situated at south of Sajing Chao, where formerly was the site of a Buddhist temple. Yihewani al-Ikhwan, or Muslim Brotherhood, is an Islamic order founded in China at the end of the 19th century. It is also known as Sin Bai or Sin Bai. Haji Mao Wanfu, founder of the new school, was influenced by the fundamentalist Wahhabi movement, which called for the return to the ancients and emerged as a new force during the mid-18th century. Over the years, the mosque has gone through a few renovations and also seen a new wave of young Muslims who share the same passion to return to the original teachings of the Quran. A crowd of visitors has already gathered at the courtyard getting ready to break their fast. They are mostly locals from the surrounding areas within the Muslim quarter. We are introduced to Imam An Shengli, who runs the mosque here.
斋月呢，尊贵的斋月降临以后呢，对于我作为教长来说，我也非常的高兴，鼓舞人心。因为尊贵的斋月降临来临以后呢，母亲大众，我和大家能在一起，能够一起白天封斋，到开斋的时候和大家一起共享开斋的这种乐趣，同时到晚上的时候遵循母圣的圣行， 例行塔拉维哈纳马斯。那么这对于我作为阿訇来说，人越多，穆斯林大众来清真寺越多，我非常的高兴，非常的欣慰，那么同时呢，穆斯林的斋月也是通过这一种斋戒来体验，我们作为一个穆斯林能够真正的去服从真主的命令，遵循主命，遵循圣行，同时通过斋戒这一种功修，真正体验了这一种斋戒饥饿的一种痛苦，让我们从内心一种对贫苦的人穷苦的人，我们有一种怜悯同苦这一种发自肺腑的这一种对他们的一种关怀和这一种爱护。
Imam An is happy to see the great turnout of Ummah to the mosque, where the close-knit community here has seen an emergence of new generation of young Muslim. They're more exposed to the outside world this modern age, which leads to self-reflection on the shortcomings in the past. This has spurred the young to dedicate studies of the Quran and relook at the history. For the young generation of Muslim here, there is a conscious return to the roots and values of Islam, which was interrupted in the past by the older generation, especially during the Cultural Revolution. With such a joyful atmosphere, it is clear that the month of Ramadan is of significance to them. Rediscovering their religiosity with fellow young comrades during holy month of Ramadan has enriched the lives of these young Muslim people and reset their priorities for the years to come. The fate of the Muslim community in XiAn has undergone many changes through the torrent of time. As the starting point of the ancient soap route, XiAn has welcomed early Muslim settlers who have eventually merged into the fabric of the Han Chinese culture in terms of customs, cuisines, and arts through the years. However, the Hui people still retain the Islamic values at the core of their daily lives, which is the main driving force that constantly nurtures and renews the faith as the governing principle that defines them as Muslim.